もしルナが死んでいたらどうするの？いや、どうもしない。ただ人族に対する興味を一切失う。それだけだ。
Have you been wondering which new anime to watch this summer? Don't worry, I've got you covered. In this video, I'll not only give a quick review of 32 new anime like The Water Magician, Hotel Inhumans, Detectives These Days Are Crazy, etc. but we'll also rank them in the order I liked. So stay tuned for that. Greetings Anime Throne fans! Summer 2025 has brought a lot of new anime from different genres. In this video, I'll cover anime from all of these genres. My reviews will be based on the first few episodes and I'll try to keep them as spoiler free as possible. You can find out all of these anime on Crunchyroll or Netflix, and I'll start from the lowest ranking anime to the highest ones. So let's begin. Number 32, See You Tomorrow at the Food Court. This is a seinen story where two girls from different high school, Wada and Yamamoto, meet daily at the food court and talk about various things like social media, aliens, their future, English, etc. But that's it. Besides the girls just sitting and talking, nothing else happens. There might be people who would enjoy this anime, but it's not for me. I barely managed to finish the first episode, so I'll give it a 3 out of 10. Number 31, Necronomicon and the Cosmic Horror Show. As the name suggests, this is a cosmic horror drama. Hundreds of popular streamers have collapsed while live streaming. They went into a coma-like state. One day, struggling streamer Miko Kurono, aka Necronomicon, gets a mysterious invitation to a certain place. There, she finds a lot of other streamers, including her rival Kana Kugaraska, who had been invited there as well. It turns out they were all invited to test a VR game, Kadath, which is a game made by the evil gods to make humans play and entertain them. I liked the ending of the first episode. This anime had a lot of potential, but it kind of fell short for me. I didn't particularly like the animation when they went inside the game. It kind of made it hard for me to take it seriously. But other than that, the concept and the anime was good. I would rate it a 4 out of 10. On number 30 is Dekin no Mogra, the Earthbound Mole. This is a dark comedy anime. Two college students, Magi and Ye, meet Mogra, who gets hit by a Kojian, which is a Japanese dictionary, when it falls on top of his head. After he refuses to go to the hospital, the students take him back to his home. After meeting Mogra, the college kids start to see ghosts. Mogra tells them he was banned from the afterlife and was trying to go there anyway, but in order to do that, he needed to collect the fire from the ghosts in his lamp, hoping to collect enough to cross to the afterlife. This light is kind of like the ghost's life force, and he only poaches a little bit of it to get by without attracting attention to him. It's a nice concept, but I wasn't able to get into it. I would rate it a 5.5 out of 10. Number 29, The Shy Hero and the Assassin Princesses. You might have seen shy heroes before, but no one can match Toto in shyness, as he can barely even speak in front of other people. Because of it, despite having enormous talent, he hasn't been able to join any parties and is a complete nobody. Then came three ladies who formed a party with him. It turns out these ladies are out to get him. Anamane is an assassin hired by someone to kill Toto. The child Ciel is sent by the demon lord to kill Toto. And the third woman is Goa, who was told Toto will be a challenge, so she decided to go after him. I'm not sure if it's a mistake or by choice, but on one hand, Goa says she's there to assassinate Toto, but on the other hand, she wants to keep him as a pet. It was also unclear why someone would want to kill a nobody like Toto. Overall, it was an average fantasy episode. If you like harem romantic comedy, you'd like this anime. I would rate it a 5 out of 10. On number 28 is Ruri Rocks. This is an educational adventure anime. It's also a good introduction to mineralogy. Ruri is a girl who loves crystals. When she asks her mother to buy one for her mother declines and tells Ruri her grandfather used to collect them in the forest and bring them home. Inspired by this, Ruri sets off to find find the crystals but has no idea what to look for. In the forest, she comes across a college girl, Nagi, who leads Ruri to the crystals and informs her about how these crystals are formed, how they move around, etc. Ruri gains a new friend in the whole process. If you are into stories like this, you'd like this anime. I would rate it a 5.2 out of 10. Number 27. Kamitsubaki City Under Construction. The beginning of this anime reminded me of Dr. Stone, but that's where the similarities end. One day, out of nowhere, a random event occurs where majority of the people suddenly turn into stones. Some even crumble on the spot. Kafu runs straight to her home, only to find both of her parents have turned to stone. She gets depressed and without even realizing it, she starts singing. Later, she is taken by another girl, Erika. When she is returning from an errand while singing, she meets a mysterious person. He later informs her about the creatures called Tesseractors who are born from people's fears and desires, and her singing, which is full of her feelings, is the only way to kill them. This anime started out really good and it had a lot of potential, but for some reason, it couldn't make use of that potential. But if you are looking for a dystopian series, you can check it out. I would rate it a 5.3 out of 10. 26. Dealing with the Mikadono sisters is a breeze. If you like harem romance anime, you'll probably like this one. Yu Ayase is the son of a legendary actress who was said to be a prodigy. Despite being her son, he was a pretty average guy with no real talent. When he got tired of being compared to his mom all the time, he distanced himself from her. When she gets sick, she tells him her last wish, which is for him to build a good family, just like she did in her favorite movie. After his mom's death, he is taken in by her mom's acquaintance and is sent to live alone with the acquaintance's 3 daughters who are also prodigies in 3 different fields: martial arts, Go, and drama. These 3 sisters rule their school as the 3 emperors. Yu has already seen how prodigies get super focused on what they love. The girl's father asks him to help his daughters and he decides to do it. This is a typical harem romance where an average guy gets all the popular girls to fall for him. I'm personally not into harem anime, but if you like harem, you'll like this one. I would rate it a 5.4 out of 10. 25. Turkey Time to Strike. This might be a hit or miss anime for you because its synopsis is a bit misleading. The synopsis makes you think it might be a sports or slice of life anime. It starts out as a sports comedy anime with bits of drama in it, but later it switches genre. I'm telling you in advance because I've seen a lot of people who hated the sudden switch because they weren't expecting it. This story is about the girls Mai, Rina, Sayuri, Nozomi, and Nanase who are in a bowling club. When Rina decides to quit, Mai tries to stop her. Mai challenges Rina to get her to stay but loses the challenge. At that time, something unexpected happens. I wanna discuss what happens here, but it will be a spoiler, so I'll skip that one. This is one of those anime where it's hard to tell whether it's good or bad, especially if you're getting into it expecting it to be a different genre. Personally, I'll hold my judgment on it until I've watched a few more episodes, but for now, I would rate it a 5.6 out of 10. 24th, Apocalypse Bringer Minogra. World conquest starts with the civilization of ruin. This anime felt more like a toned down version of Overlord and the time I got reincarnated as a slime. Eternal Nations is a fantasy strategy game where players manage an empire. Ira Takuto, a sick boy playing the game from a hospital, goes unconscious and wakes up in this game where he is the #1 player. When he wakes up in the continent of Idoragya, he meets Sludge Atto, the character he used to play with in the game, and decides to build the evil empire Minogra. He later meets some dark elves who think of him as the legendary king of ruin who is sealed away in the evil forest. He helps the starving dark elves, earning their respect. This is your typical isekai anime. I would rate it a 5.7 out of 10. 23rd, Cultural Exchange with a Game Center Girl. This is a romantic comedy that shows the struggles of having a language barrier. Renji Kusakabe, who works at a game center, one day sees an English girl playing the crane game and failing to win the angry koala plushie. After trying and failing for 3 hours, Renji decides to help her win and gives her the plushie. When she looks confused, he looks at the Valentine's Day poster and wishes her happy Valentine's Day. This leads to a misunderstanding as she thinks he is proposing to her and she asks him to be her Valentine. When he looks it up online, he realizes his mistake and decides to use a notebook to write his messages to her, as he is not very good with speaking English but can probably write it with some online help. That's how their cultural exchange begins, as they will probably use the notebook to exchange messages from now on and will get to learn more about each other. This was a nice slice of life-ish romance anime which also has some funny moments. I would rate it a 6 out of 10. 22nd, Private Tutor to the Duke's Daughter. This is a fantasy romance anime with elements of magic, academy and harem. Alan, despite being a prodigy, fails the court sorcerer exam, probably because of being a commoner. Instead of returning home, he takes on the job of tutoring the Duke's daughter, Tina, who wants to follow her elder sister and join the Royal Academy. But for some reason, despite having mana, she can't use magic at all. The Duke also asks him to teach their butler's granddaughter, Ellie. Alan has some unconventional views on magic and decides to teach both the girls. This is a coming-of-age story where you'll get to see these characters overcoming numerous challenges. I would rate it a 6.5 out of 10. 21st, Watery-kun's Dash is about to collapse. This is a romance comedy anime. The story revolves around Naoto Watery, whose world revolves around his little sister. After their parents' death 2 years ago, they were moved around from one relative to another until they came to live with their aunt. One day, a girl from his past suddenly reappears in his life when she transfers to his school. They used to be friends until 6 years ago when she trashed their family's garden and then disappeared from their lives. He is still upset with her and is not ready to forgive her for that. This creates a mystery of why she destroyed the garden and why she disappeared. But when Naoto asks her, she refuses to answer his question regarding that. The girl's creepy, stalkerish actions lead to some really funny and romantic moments. Based on the first episode, I would rate it a 6.7 out of 10. 20th, With You and the Rain. If you are into slice of life comedy anime, then you will like this one. One day, on her way home, Fuji finds a tanuki-like animal in the rain who insists he is a dog. He is very intelligent, has good manners, and is a scaredy cat. He gives Fuji an umbrella and asks her to take him home. He can also write, and that's how they mostly communicate. Since Fuji doesn't know much about dogs, she thinks nothing of his unusual behavior and brings him home. Her dad is the only person who got surprised by his weird behavior and called him a monster, a yokai, etc. This is a heartwarming comedy anime where you see these two fill the hole in their hearts. It's an Yashikei anime. I would rate it a 7.3 out of 10. 19th, Betrothed to My Sister's Ex. This is a typical Cinderella story where the main character Marie is abused by her parents and is treated like a servant. If you liked anime like Bibliophile Princess, The Two Perfect Saint, etc., you will like this series as well. Marie's family is poor. The Baron uses Marie's birthday party to debut her beautiful elder sister Anastasia in an attempt to find a rich groom for her. He calls Anastasia the star of the party. When Marie realizes this, she gets sad and leaves the room. Outside, Marie meets Count Kairos Granado, who at first mistakes her for a servant because of her poor clothing, but finds out she is one of the Baron's daughters. After talking to her, he gets impressed and calls her beautiful. She gets embarrassed and tells him the star of the party is inside and runs away, which leads to a misunderstanding as he thinks she is Anastasia because the star of the party should be the birthday girl Marie. So he sends a marriage proposal for the elder sister Anastasia instead. Anastasia gets into a tragic accident and dies. Her father asks Marie to take her sister's place, seduce the count, and marry him in her sister's place since they used up all of the presents they have received. At first, I thought it was ridiculous that the parents would mistreat Marie and would treat her like a servant just because they thought she was ugly. They were supposed to be Marie is shown as their real daughter, so this behavior didn't make sense to me. But on my rewatch, I realized that Marie was the only one with red hair in their family, which made me think either Marie was adopted or an illegitimate child. Either way, since the Baron was poor, they probably took her in, so as their daughter, they won't have to pay her and they will get a servant for free. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Unless it's one of those anime where you need to turn off your brain to watch this. It was a nice romance fantasy anime, but I found Marie's behavior to be annoying. I would rate it a 7.3 out of 10. 18th, Ugly Mug Epic Fighter. This is another isekai anime but with a little twist. Usually, when the main characters get the choice to select the starting points for their new stats, especially for looks, they would pick the highest stats possible, right? But not this guy. Yoshioka Shigeru used to work as a salesman in his old life, but he was wrongfully accused of sexually harassing a woman. Since he was ugly and carrying adult games with him at the moment, nobody believed him. He couldn't do anything but confess to get a lighter sentence. But due to his false confession, he lost his job and lived as a shut-in for 6 years before he found a chance to isekai into another world. Frustrated at the screen giving his looks 5 points, he selects minus 255 points for his looks. The default stats are 5 each. As a result of him picking negative points for his looks and picking many other negative conditions, he gets 100 trillion bonus points, a growth rate of 13,000 and many other powers. Then he meets 3 other people who use the same way to isekai into this world and their journey begins. It has a unique concept and good comedy. I would rate it a 7.5 out of 10. 17th, Night of the Living Cat. You might have heard of zombie apocalypse, but have you ever heard of cat apocalypse? That's right. That's what we are looking at here. As ridiculous as the idea sounds, it actually turned into a pretty recent anime. One day, a cat carried a virus which turned anyone the cat touched into another cat. And soon, so many people were turned into cats that it turned into a pandemic where the world is overrun with cats. For cat lover Kunagi, this is both a paradise and a hell rolled into one. With his companion Hikaru, Kunagi swears to end this nightmare until the world goes back to the one where cats and humans can coexist. Then we see the past to how it all started. One day, he was being chased by people and fell unconscious. Hikaru found him and brought him to their cat cafe. Although Kunagi didn't remember his past, he clearly remembered cats, their breeds, what their behavior meant, even their histories and origins, etc. The idea is very unique, and no matter what happens, it's hard to feel scared, so you can't even call it a horror anime. But it is a horror comedy set in a post-apocalyptic world. I would rate it a 7.9 out of 10. 16th, The Water Magician. If you liked Mushoku Tensei and reincarnated as a slime, you'll definitely like this anime. Ryo Mihara dies and gets isekai'd into a fantasy world called Fae, which is full of magic and monsters. Only 20% of the population can use magic here. But since Ryo wanted a peaceful, slow life, the angel sends him to a remote cabin in a forest which has 2 months' food and a beginner's book about the monsters of this world. Ryo gets the water magic, which he practices using science logic until he can create ice and hot water as well. The angel realizes that he has made a mistake as he has accidentally given Ryo eternal youth. So Ryo is now overpowered and doesn't age. He then meets Abel, who convinces Ryo to leave his cabin and go on a journey with him. This is another typical isekai anime, but it's still very enjoyable. I'll rate it an 8.1 out of 10. 15th, Lord of Mysteries. If Mistborn and Harry Potter had a baby, this will be it. This story is set in a parallel universe in a steampunk Victorian world where people can gain supernatural abilities through potions and rituals. These people are called Beyonders. Zo Mingrui transmigrates into this world in the body of Klein Moratti. It turns out Klein and his 2 friends have found an ancient notebook and all 3 of them had committed suicide until Zo woke up in Klein's body. Now he seeks to uncover uncover mysteries and tries to find a way back home. The first episode might seem a bit confusing, but push through it. The second episode, in my opinion, is much better. The music, the animation, the art, all of it is beautiful. This series provides a complex and intriguing setting. I had to watch it twice to get the full gist of it, but it's still an amazing series. I would rate it an 8.2 out of 10. 14th, welcome to the Outcast's restaurant. If you are looking for an adventure anime with a dash of wholesome moments, this is the anime for you. Dennis is not only a cook but also creates medicine and performs alchemy for the world's strongest party. When Dennis gets kicked out by their captain Vigo, who is jealous of him, Dennis decides to do what he really loves, that is, cooking. He decides to open a restaurant for adventurers. By the way, is it just me, or does Dennis look a lot like a grown-up version of Sanada from Ace of Diamond? Anyway, when Dennis is out buying things for the restaurant, he comes across an auction of a young girl. At first, he decides to ignore it, thinking he can't help everyone in the world, but when he sees the broken, empty look in her eyes, it reminds him of his own past and he decides to buy her. The girl slowly opens up to him and they work together to open up the restaurant. Seeing Atelier slowly become livelier and become happy was really heartwarming. I would rate it an 8.3 out of 10. 13th, Dachiakuta. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. This is a new shonen anime. The floating city is divided into the rich and the slums. The slums are located near the pit where they throw trash and criminals. The city surrounded by the pit kind of reminded me of Made in Abyss because the monsters live in the pit. When Rudy's adopted father, Recto, gets murdered, Rudy was framed for his father's death and was thrown into the pit where he saw huge monsters made from the trash and almost died fighting them before he was saved by Engine, who could use special powers to fight these monsters. Rudy discovers that just like Engine, he also has a new power. He vows to go back to the sphere, that is the floating city, and get his revenge. It was a good series with a bit of unique premise and a bit of mystery. I would rate this anime an 8.4 out of 10. 12th, New Saga. This is a fantasy anime with themes of romance, adventure and regression in it. This is the story of the hero Kyle. When their continent is attacked and destroyed by the Demon King, Kyle manages to kill him, but he also dies along with him. Right before he dies, he grabs a red crystal which takes him 4 years back to when his loved ones were still alive and the brutal war hadn't started. With the knowledge of the future at his disposal, Kyle decides to make sure that this time around, he would save everyone he loved along with his continent. It was a really fun watch. I would rate it an 8.5 out of 10. 11th, Onmyo Kaiten Rebirth Verse. This is an Isekai anime with bits of sci-fi and time travel sprinkled in, which is a rare combo that you don't get to see too often. If you liked Tokyo Revengers and Power Rangers, you'll like this anime. Narihira Takeru is a delinquent who has met a girl in his dreams for 1999 times. When he chases after a hamster-like thing, Truck-kun strikes again and he gets isekai'd into this high-tech fantasy parallel world where he meets the girl from his dreams. Suddenly, the alerts go up that the black mist is approaching within a certain area. Black mist is a phenomenon where the Oni world intrudes upon their world and anyone who gets caught in the black mist gets petrified and a huge Oni arrives to destroy them. Onmyoji use Shikigami to fight those Oni and if they defeat it, the people and the world go back to normal. Their fighting kind of reminded me of the Power Rangers versus the huge monster fights. I wanna discuss more but I can't do that without giving away spoilers, so I'll stop here. It was a nice action-packed anime with a goofy delinquent main character who kind of reminded me of Hanamichi from Slam Dunk. I would rate it an 8.6 out of 10. 10th, Hotel Inhumans. If you like surprises, unpredictable plot twists where you can't tell what will happen next, this is the anime for you. The name might suggest it's a hotel for vampires, etc., but it's not. This story is about two hotel concierges, Ikuro Hoshi and Sara Haizaki, who work for Hotel Inhumans, which specifically caters to killers. So along with providing regular services like the finest cuisines, ways to relax and entertainment, they also provide the best selection of weapons, false identities, and dispose of the dead bodies and evidences. Hikaru isn't really comfortable with this job and wants to quit, but for some reason, he keeps working at the hotel. At first, I thought Xiao was the main character, as the story was focused on him and his sister, who was held hostage against him, and he was forced to kill people for 20 years to protect her. But I was wrong. It seems like each episode will focus on a new killer guest at the hotel, while the main theme will center around Hikaru and Sarah. This was another anime that took me by surprise. The first 2 episodes each had perfect bittersweet endings and shocking twists at the end that I didn't see coming, and I'm usually very good at seeing them. I'll continue watching this just to see how it will surprise me next. I would rate it an 8.7 out of 10. 9th, Solo Camping for Two. This is a slice of life anime with elements of romance and yashike in it. If you are looking for a relaxing and wholesome anime, this is it. It's also unique because both the main characters are adults, which is a nice change in anime, especially because anime usually tends to treat people in their 30s as old people. For example, Kafka Hibino from Kaiju number 8 or Nagumo from Detective These Days Are Crazy, etc. Gen Kinokura is a 34 years old guy whose hobby is solo camping. He loves being surrounded by nature, away from the car noises and chattering voices of the city. It makes him feel free. He feels like he has a world all to himself. But one day, his solitude is disturbed by a newbie camper, Shizuku Kusano, when she gets lost and stumbles upon his camp. She is totally unprepared and doesn't even have a tent. He wants nothing more than to get rid of her, but since it's night and she doesn't want to get lost again, she threatens to haunt him if something happened to her. Begrudgingly, he agrees to let her stay the night and even gives her his tent. He tells her straight she has no experience for solo camping. He tells her she lacks the knowledge, experience, and preparation skills needed for solo camping. And her brilliant solution is that they start solo camping for two, with just the two of them, and threatens to haunt him again if he didn't agree and something happened to her. She eventually asks him to at least go on one camping trip with her. On top of a good story, this anime also has really good music. I would rate it an 8.7 out of 10.
いいかマシロ、爆弾には触らず写真だけ送ってくれ。
写真ね、OK？
いいよ。もたもたしてるとこれが家にあるぞ。
8th, Detectives These Days Are Crazy. If you have been looking for a good comedy show, this is it. This series is a mix of detective work and silly comedy with a bit of action sprinkled in. It kind of reminded me of Sakamoto days. Nagumo Kichiro was once a famous detective, but he couldn't keep up with the modern times and lost his touch. He doesn't even know what smartphones are. Now he's almost broke and his detective agency isn't doing so well. Then one day, a young girl applies to be his assistant as she dreams of becoming a detective herself in the future. He at first rejects him, saying a young high school girl isn't fit to be a detective. But after she helps him out with a case, he grudgingly accepts her to be his assistant. She shows her talent in art by creating a wonderful poster for their agency, offering to do any odd jobs, and spreads it all over the town. He yells at her to take the posters down, but thanks to the posters, they get a new job to clear the nest of bees. A lot of misunderstandings and comedy ensues. I don't wanna spoil too much as it would ruin the fun, but at least watch the first 3 episodes. This anime has the perfect mix of comedy, mystery, and action with a heartwarming found family at its center. Make sure to check it out. I would rate it an 8.8 out of 10. 7th, Secrets of the Silent Witch. The reason I liked it so much was because it reminded me a little bit of the Apothecary Diaries, or to be more precise, the dynamic between Monica and the second prince reminded me a bit of Mao Mao and Jinshi. This world is full of magic, where mages use complex formula to use magic by speaking incantations aloud. Our female lead, Monica Everett, just like Mao Mao, has a brilliant mind and she is very good at maths and formula, making her an excellent mage. But she likes number like Lihaku does, so she's more of a mix of the La clan siblings, Mao Mao and Lihaku. But unlike Mao Mao, Monica is an introvert. She is 16 years old and she used to get too flustered to be able to speak in front of others. As a result, she learned to use magic without having to speak incantations and became the only mage in the whole world who can use unenchanted magic, earning her the title the Silent Witch. She became one of the 7 sages. that is, the 7 most powerful sages in the world. Because of her shy nature, she lived in a secluded cabin with her familiar Nero. But one of her fellow 7 sages, Lord Louis, tracked her down and asked her to go undercover to Serendia Academy. Just like Jinshi, Felix is the second prince of the kingdom, and there are assassins after him. The king asked Louis to protect the prince, but as a grown man, he can't infiltrate the academy. Since most people don't know what the Silent Witch looks like, and with her being the right age, he asks her to infiltrate the academy as a student and protect the second prince. Some mysterious events happen, and just like Jinshi and Mao Mao, the second prince asks Monica to solve the case and find a culprit. I love this anime so much, I ended up reading the manga, which only have a few more chapters. Trust me, if you love Jinshi and Mao Mao romance, you will love this series as well. There's even a scene in the manga where Monica is absorbed in her work, just like Mao Mao, and just like Jinshi, Felix kisses her on the cheek. It will definitely fill the hole in your heart left behind by Apothecary Diaries. I would rate it an 8.8 out of 10. 6th, scooped up by an S-rank adventurer. Just like the Outcast restaurant, the main character in this anime also gets kicked out of his party at the very beginning, but that's where the similarity ends. Then we see the main character, aka Lloyd's history. He was just a child when a sorcerer found him. Their training sequence was funny. His master is kind of sadistic, and whatever Lloyd manages to accomplish, she crushes his happiness by doing it better so that it won't go to his head. She finds out that Lloyd has the potential to become a chosen one too. She promises herself she won't let him make the same mistakes she did, which makes me think she was a chosen one as well but failed at her task. Lloyd joins the previously mentioned party and helps them from the background, but they get too cocky and kick him out. He later gets picked up by a girl who is looking for a white mage to join their party. Turns out they are an S-rank adventurers in need of a white mage. It was a nice adventure anime. I would rate it an 8.9 out of 10. 5th, Togen Anki. This one was another delightful surprise. I didn't even notice how fast the episode went by. Once upon a time, terrifying and ruthless Oni roamed the world. They delighted in killing humans and destroyed everything. A human named Momotaro stormed the island of Onigashima and started a war with Oni. For thousands of years, they have been caught up in a bloody war, passing down the fight from generation to generation. The Momotaro descendants formed the Momotaro Agency, and the Oni, out of fear for their lives, blundered among the humans to hide themselves. One man took pity on an Oni baby and took him in. Unaware of his origins, the boy grew up by the name Shiki Ichinose. But things take a turn for the worse when Shiki is attacked by a member of the Momotaro Agency. A lot happens in the next episode, but I don't want to spoil too much. Let's just say he also joins an agency which fights the Momotaro Agency. Although the concept isn't too unique, it was still highly enjoyable. I would rate it a 9.1 out of 10. 4th, Takopi's Original Sin. If you liked Made in Abyss, Erased, and Tokyo Revengers, you will probably like this one too. Even though they are completely different genres, it's still dark, twisted, and depressing. And the kids are going through hell here as well. The alien Takopi comes to Earth from planet Happy, and he has gadgets to spread happiness. He meets the gloomy Shizuka and tries to get her to use his gadgets, but she isn't interested in any of them. Shizuka is a child who gets constantly bullied at her school by a girl named Marina and her lackeys. Shizuka's mother is an escort, and Marina hates Shizuka because her parents started fighting because of Shizuka's mom. So she takes her anger out on Shizuka, and things keep getting darker and darker. I want to discuss more, but I don't want to spoil too much. This anime is a real tearjerker. Even though one of the main characters is from planet Happy and his job is to spread happiness, there aren't too many happy things you'll find in this anime. And even if you did, the cost of the happiness will be so high, you won't be able to feel too happy about it. Even with the warnings, it still took me by surprise and left me really depressed for a while. So now, I literally have to keep some light anime planned ahead of watching this, just to lift me up. Trigger warning, this anime has suicidal behavior and child abuse in it. I would rate it a 9.3 out of 10. 3rd, the summer Hikaru died. How can a story be so dark and depressing but still be a bit heartwarming, but in a twisted way? This is a psychological anime with a perfect blend of mystery and horror. If you liked Stranger Things, you'd like this series as well. Yoshiki and Hikaru were best friends. One day, Hikaru disappeared for a week. It turns out Hikaru died and something took over his body. 6 months later, Yoshiki is still friends with the new Hikaru, who is pretending to be the old Hikaru. When Yoshiki asks him, the new Hikaru tells him the truth and begs him not to tell anyone because he doesn't want to kill Yoshiki. Yoshiki decides to ignore this fact and to keep being friends with the new Hikaru because he misses the old Hikaru and can't come to terms with his death. There are a lot of other information, like strange things are happening all over the town. There is a company who had been looking for something for over 100 years. A guy hired by that company who hunts supernatural things and looking for a thing. There is some old lady who is terrified of the new Hikaru, calling him the Nonoki-sama and saying he has come down from the mountain. After that old lady dies, some of the other older people were terrified, saying they were next and that some ritual had failed. I know majority of the anime so far is absolutely terrifying, but that said, the new Hikaru is kind of like a newborn baby, so despite having old Hikaru's memories, everything is still new to him as he is experiencing them for the first time himself. And the way he leans on Yoshiki and depends on him a lot, it's kind of heartwarming and wholesome and yet very scary, which is a unique combination you can't find easily. I'm still not sure what exactly is going on, but I'm very intrigued by this anime. I can't wait to find out more about what's going on in this village. I really enjoyed this anime. I would rate it a 9.5 out of 10. Second, Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. If you are looking for a really good romance anime, this is it. I can tell it's going to become one of my favorite romance anime of all time. The story is set around two high schools, Chidori and Kikyo, who despite being neighbors, can't stand each other. Rintaro Sumugi is a student at Chidori Public High School, which is basically a school for dumb poor kids. Kaoruko Waguri is a student at Kikyo Private Academy, which is a prestigious school for elite young girls. I would have said it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, but the hatred and animosity seems more one-sided to me. The girls at Kikyo openly despise and look down on the boys at Chidori. Rintaro has a lot of nasty rumors circulating about him, and everyone other than his friends seem to be scared of him. Then one day, when Rintaro is working at his family's restaurant, he meets Waguri, who immediately runs off after seeing him. Thinking she ran off because she was scared of him, he wants to apologize to her, but she shows up the next day and clears the misunderstanding, telling him she ran off because she got flustered and that she never once thought he was scary. She later runs into trouble with the guys who were looking to get back at Rintaro, but Rintaro saves her, and so begins their tender friendship, only for him to find out she is a student at Kikyo. This was a really nice romance anime with a perfect pilot episode. I would rate it a 9.7 out of 10. On number 1 is Clevatess. If you like monsters turning good and found families, not unlike Kurama and Naruto, Madara and Natsume, Turbo Granny and Momo and Okrun, etc., you'll probably like this one as well. The world building in this story is really amazing. It kind of reminded me of Game of Thrones for some reason. The story is set in the continent of Ethia, which is divided into 5 nations and is surrounded by lands ruled by 4 lords of the dark beasts. Because of the dangerous beasts living in those lands, the rest of the world is unknown to the humanoids of Ethia. Any expedition sent always gets destroyed. Clevatess is the name of the lord of the dark beasts. When an expedition of heroes attack him, Clevatess wipes them out and attacks the city of the king, who sent the heroes party after him. Due to the king's rude behavior, he decides to wipe the humans out. But then something happens that raises his interest in humanity and stops him from destroying the humanoids. He comes across a dying woman protecting her infant child. She begs Clevatess to save the child, but he refuses. But when she insists, saying the child will prove his worth someday, Clevatess agrees to take the child in. But since he doesn't know what to do with the child, he decides to get help from a female hero who tells him he needs to hire a wet nurse to feed the baby. In order to do that, he assumes the form of a human and they march towards the human lands to find a wet nurse. He claims he doesn't care about what happens to the child, but rest assured, if the child dies, the rest of the humans will die because Clevatess will lose all interest in humanity. I love when dangerous beasts get attached to human child and form found families with them. That's the reason why I really like this series. There were lots of other information as well, like the 5 races in Edzia, the weapons to hurt dark beasts, and the legend of a hero and how it will defeat the Lord of the Dark Beasts, etc. This anime had a perfect pilot episode followed by equally good episodes and had packed all that information in it without making it seem confusing or boring. You can't help but feel a range of emotions going from horrified to intrigued to liking Clevatess. It was a really enjoyable watch. I'll give it a solid 9.8 out of 10. I'll also post more anime review and Apothecary Diaries videos soon. If you have any anime you'd like me to review, let me know in the comments below. Smash that like button and share the video if you enjoyed the chaos. Have a great day. Bye bye. See you in my next video.